Switzerland, Belgium, Netherlands, to make it easy. 3 traditional family businesses, 3 currently different approaches how to move beyond car. Can we dive right into it? What are you doing and why are you doing? You already mentioned that, Raymond, so I'll start with Roland and then Vincent. What are you doing and why?
So for the time being, we are the largest car importer in Switzerland, having a market share of 33%, selling about 100,000 cars per year, having an active community of 1.5 million clients, having about 60,000 businesses as fleet partners. And we are very traditional in a sense that we have the complete value chain in importing, preparing, selling, leasing, subscribing, repairing, second-handing cars.
Okay.
What we also added now over the last years is, let's say, more in the sense of connectivity, in the sense of mobility as a service. We created also an own platform in that field, and there we realized that 4 wheels is not enough, especially in urban areas where you have a lot of congestion already, even in Switzerland, where you do not yet have road tolls, but you have speed limitations. So driving in Zurich today or in Geneva is not fun if you're having a car. And that's the reason why we said, okay, we have to consider what's going on there. And in establishing such a mobility as a service platform, we partner at the moment with bike providers, e-bikes, e-cargo bikes. We are already partnering with scooter companies. We will have an integration into public transport. So we are opening up into a field of mobility, not car, really mobility, really trying to service and support our clients in urban areas much, much better.
Good, thank you for the introduction.
And maybe for adding complexity, we also enter in the field of energy production, energy provision, charging stations, where we did a huge acquisition last year. So there are different ecosystems coming together now in that field of new mobility.
Good, thank you. Vincent, how about D'Ieteren and Belgian market?
Actually, we copied that and we did the same, more or less.
Oh, well, beside one little detail, I guess.
No,
How you
indeed,
got to that? Huh?
We started in 1805, so more than 200 years ago in Belgium, with wheels and carriages, and now we went to bodywork, assembly of cars, and then, of course, in the late 40s, beginning of the 50s, starting to work together with the Volkswagen Group. And now, since more or less 5-6 years, we changed not everything. We're still importing cars, we're still selling cars, repairing cars, second market as well. But we started Labbox, which is a startup incubator at D'Ieteren. And we moved to services as well. Of course, we had Volkswagen D'Ieteren Finance, which is a traditional leasing company. But now we have those startups. We have more and more services. We have energy as well, charging stations. But now we even go to solar panels as well. And last year, we actually started with a bike retail company called Lucien. And we started last year with 1 store. And today, we have more or less 15 stores already. And the idea is to double it for the upcoming months and years. So we will go to probably 30, 35, maybe 40 stores in Belgium.
Oh. Oh. So basically, if I sum that up, the largest manufacturer of the bikes and e-bikes in the world nowadays, PON. The largest bicycle and e-bikes retail network in Belgium, Lucien.
Yeah.
And you, Roland, in Switzerland, a bundle of mobility services towards public transportation. Your company clients, you have like 7 out of 10 your customers and the car sales go towards company clients, not the private persons.
Yeah,
am I right, more or less?
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, wow. Okay, and now we're coming to business now because it's all about money. You have 90 dealers in Switzerland, your own dealers, car dealers. With the transition to electric cars, we all know they ain't gonna make their business as it was in the past. Was this one of the drivers to incorporate micromobility and all the services around for them to have business for your dealers? Or was it the other way around? We want to go to mobility and then, by the way, they can make their living off it later on.
I think the two things come together at the moment because we see we are also family owned. We have a strong responsibility towards our people. So there are about 4,500 people on the shop floor. And we know that work will be reduced over the next 5 to 8 years as the amount of battery electric vehicles will increase. So service work will go down. We also see that there might be new distribution models coming from VW, meaning that the huge spaces which we are occupying today for cars will go down, will be reduced. So potentially we have the opportunities also for other form factors, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, one-wheelers, whatever wheelers. For sure, there will not be a perfect match to enter with the new form factors into our existing structures, but we are really closely monitoring how we can add on this and how we can basically develop also a roadmap for the new mobility setup we want to see.
Was it difficult to start with activities that go beyond the car within such traditional companies? Organizationally, budget-wise, human resources? I mean, that's not an easy task. I mean, you come up with something that has less than 4 wheels and a steering wheel. How did you manage? I mean, Raymond, go ahead. I mean, you told us a little bit, but still, how did it start?
Yeah, the thing in PON is it has a delegated business model. So every group does its own thing, even if they compete with each other.
Yeah.
So you will not start up bikes, for instance, within the automotive group. You will start. So there was a new business group, and the new business group started with bikes on their own. This is more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So they had their own freedom to start up. But there was a point in time, because I'm working at PON Holdings, and at a point in time is only 6 years ago, where at the same podium as this, at some point I said, what I just told you, I think we need 2 wheels to get into the city. And at that moment, the guys from the automotive side were apping me, Raymond, do you know who's paying your salary? That's only 5 or 6 years ago. The guys from the bike side, of course, were very glad. And this is how it works within our company. So there is a position for everybody in this new mobility space, and everybody has to grow it. Where the difficulty comes are the services. Because as you said, the services integrate things from the delegated business model.
Yeah.
So the bikes and the cars are integrated.
Because that's what the customer actually expects from you.
Yeah, it struck me how you said it. The thing that is happening now, that the new mobility doesn't happen at the corporate level somewhere in a head office in Amsterdam or in Wolfsburg or whatever. It happens in a city. So you have to cooperate in a city, and the city has to make it work, and the dealer knows how the city works. And the importer, like we, knows how the Netherlands work. And there comes the added value of the three of us, that in the past, the big VW, you know it all, huh? The big VW told us, we know that this car with this design is what you need in your market. And it was the same in every market. And at this moment, we say every market is different, has another government, has another local situation, needs something else. So our role as country representatives, I don't call it importer anymore, country representatives, gives us a completely new place.
Yeah.
And because we see that, because we are the link to the customer and our dealers are the link to the customer even closer, it's actually very easy in our company to make it work, because everybody sees, yes, we have in this delegated business model, we are a part of the puzzle, but only if we make the puzzle work, in the end, we as a company will get out of better. So I don't say it's very easy, but
but it sounds like a power shift.
It's a power shift which is so logical that people go in that direction rather naturally. It has taken us 10 years, so it's not from today to tomorrow. But I think you recognize that.
Definitely. It's all about change, actually, and change of mentality. And change of mentality from the people out there, but in the company as well. And the fact for D'Ieteren at least was we wanted to become number one of mobility in Belgium and not anymore number one of car selling.
Okay. How do you measure that? Being a number one or number two in mobility, how do you measure the mobility? Any of you? I mean, I know that, by the way, we might mention it as well. You started working together, exchanging experiences, because all three of you and other colleagues on other markets are facing basically similar changes on the market, I believe. So how do you measure mobility? Because now we're talking about business, no?
So there are different parameters we are using. So one is we set up an innovation and venture lab 5 years ago. And so there we have strict parameters in terms of how many scoutings we will do, how many MVPs we will place, how many ventures we can build, how many corporations. So from there, it's a kind of a preparation setup. It's a kind of a shift in the organization, the mindset. And that's also the reason why AMAG today is quite ready to accept that we are going away from four wheels to mobility.
Yeah.
So that's the point. In terms of energy, we have our parameters in terms of photovoltaic installations, square meters, kilowatt hours produced, things like that. We are not yet there in terms of saying, okay, we want to have a sales figure for bikes, for example, but more on a connectivity point of view, on a clientele, a number of customers in mobility as a service network, things like that.
Okay, good. How about you, Vincent, in Belgium?
To become number one, you need, first of all, to cover all the market. And only with cars, you cover only a part of the market. Then we have services, we have bikes, and now we have micromobility. Because between bikes and cars, you still have a gap.
Yeah.
And this gap is now filled with Microlino for us in Belgium.
Oh, yeah, then we'll come back to Microlino, that's for sure, yeah.
And at least now we cover the full part from servicing to the Bugatti. And that's the way you can become number one, by covering the full market.
Oh, well, speaking of Microlino, I'll follow up on that. I mean, as most of you know, but still just repeat, one is out there to test. Beautiful, small car, if you might still call it that way. Developed in Switzerland. Oliver, I think he was one of the panelists, or will be on one of the panelists. Please make sure you don't miss it. But still, how does that fit, again, into your mobility strategy? Is it just a smaller car, or is it a completely different beast within the offerings?
We started in January, so it's still pretty fresh, to be honest. And we thought it would be only a city car. And actually it becomes a car, and that's what the first customers say. It's a car for small, short distances. So it's not only city. You live in point A, you work in point B, it's 10 kilometers away from each other.
Okay.
That's enough, to be honest. A car from 2 meters, 50 and 500 kilograms, we don't need every time a car from 5 meters and more than 2 tons.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense anymore if you're traveling alone and standing in a traffic jam. This is more than enough. So it's really a new part of mobility, and it's complementary to the other things we do. It's not replacing a car. It's just use the mobility when you need it. And in this case, you need a small car. In another case, you might just need your feet, and in a third case, you might need a bike. And it's another way of thinking of using my mobility, and not I have a car, I take a car.
Oh, is it something that, Raymond, then your offerings of these 27 bike and e-bike brands is going to fight with Microlino on the offerings?
No, it's not going to fight. It completes the picture, because the only thing we cannot manage in the app is the weather.
Okay.
So it will rain sometimes, but this is the old story. But I think the new story is, and I don't know how it's in Switzerland or Belgium, but I think it's similar, because of the standard four-wheeled car is becoming, especially when it's electric, it's becoming a very, very expensive toy. We are losing as I talked to the brands, we are losing the VW up segment. If you are in the Netherlands, you could buy a VW up 7 years ago for 10,000 euros. They are now ending the up production, and the cheapest up in the Netherlands now is just below 19,000 euros. It doubled in price. So in the Netherlands, there's actually
Pricing here, the car out.
the whole segment of 10,000 euro cars has gone. And that was the biggest segment in the Netherlands for private people to buy a car. Now they are all buying second-hand 10,000 euro cars. But if you are in a city, as you said, and you want something that is more than a bike or a cargo bike for other things, there is a price window for the Microlino. So this is a completely different thing. So it's not coming from micromobility as itself. It's from the market that is changing, where the role of the car, because of what legislation expects from a car in terms of safety, in terms of environment, creates a new space for something that has a lot of features of a car, but has not the financial burden of a car. And that's the microcar. So we are in the middle of putting this all together and making something out of it. But it's no competition. It's in the whole thing, it's a new pocket. And the pocket at this moment is mainly pushed by the price level.
Okay. So that's what Horace coined in 2017, like unbundling the car, because we got used to use car from any trip from 500 meters to 500 kilometers. And now for every trip, there might be a different vehicle. But still, we know that the infrastructure out there has been shaped over the years, has not been developed for cars. It's been built, the roads were not built for cars, they were built for bikes at that time. But the infrastructure has been shaped towards cars over the decades. Now, I mentioned already several times, micromobility bikes, e-bikes need their space, their infrastructure. Where to ride, where to park. Are we far away from the moment that, for instance, the three of you representing the countries and stuff like this, we really step up and make clear to the states, cities, please invest into infrastructure that is not car infrastructure, because that's what they were used to do for the industry. But now you need to step up and ask for the same favor and investment for the other industry. Are you there far already?
I think we have to be ready for that. Just to see that it's not about selling cars, it's providing mobility, individual, sustainable mobility to our customers, to our older clientele, to the new ones, to the urban hipsters, let's put it like that. And so we have to be ready and we have to support that intrinsically. Because if we do not do it, we have the network. We are the #1 provider of individual mobility in Switzerland. Somebody else will do it. So we have to do it. And even if our car guys do not like it, but we support things like that. And also, just coming back on the Microlino, for us it's fascinating. So it's the first real mini mobility form factor we will have in Switzerland of serious design, serious professionalism. And we like it. We do not know whether it will survive for the next 5 years, but we see this is a door opener. Something is happening there. It's filling an urban niche. There is a requirement for that. And for us also, it is an important tool on a mobility as a service platform, because we will start a sharing model, a sharing project in the city of Zurich in October with Microlinos.
Okay.
Just to see and just to learn. We have done that with larger cars 5 years ago. It didn't work, but now we have a new attempt. And just to see, does that work? Is this now the right form factor for cities, for sharing, for open, controlled, free floating? We will see.
Oh, tell us more. How many cars are ready for such a fleet? What's the
We
plan?
will just start with 4 Microlinos on 2 city parking hubs.
Okay.
We have digitalized them, put them on our platform for sharing, for booking, for everything, and then if it works, we roll it out. It's clear.
Okay. Yeah. So next time in the autumn in Zurich, Microlino on the car sharing platform.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Vincent, in Belgium? How do you combine different form factors from e-bikes up over to Microlino? Do you keep them separate, or do you try as a mobility provider to combine them? If yes, then how?
The B2C, we keep them separate.
Okay.
Because if you want to buy an Audi, for instance, you may not be interested in a cargo bike, and the other way around. For B2B, we try that every company only has one contact person in the company, in our company at D'Ieteren, and they represent everything. They represent all services, they represent all car brands, but they also take Microlino now, they also take the bikes with them, which makes it easier. And if you have a mobility budget, which is maybe something other countries have as well, instead of only taking a big car, you can take a smaller car and a bike, or a smaller car and a Microlino, or a smaller car and some subway tickets. And that's the way you need to act. Two companies, having one person offering everything, all services from D'Ieteren, at least it makes everybody known and everybody comfortable with all the services you have. Because most of the services, you might not even know it's part of D'Ieteren, but you might use them every day. And car sharing is also part of it, with Poppy, which is free floating in a lot of big cities. We didn't start yet with Microlino. We are still talking about how we can do that. Because in fact, which is a little bit strange for car sharing, they see that all small cars are the cars that are less used in cities, in car sharing. At least in Belgium, people prefer Skoda Octavia or an Audi A4 to Up or Ibiza.
We could
Don't ask me why.
Probably hired for a completely different job because you need a space then, probably.
Not even, because the trips they make are pretty short.
Okay.
And we just don't understand at the moment why people are still using those big cars for small, shorter trips.
Interesting. Any experience here from the Netherlands in that sense?
Yeah, I completely mirror what you said. So it's car dealerships and bike dealerships is a different story. We did some experiments of bringing them together, and it's just...
And you don't mean Move Amsterdam, your headquarter, where there's 3/4 of the space is now still cars and 1/4 is bicycles, and it might change.
But we don't sell.
No, I was joking.
And it's about the selling. So selling a bike, it's a completely different audience than selling a car. So bringing them together on a B2C level, we have seen this doesn't work. Bringing that together in propositions like lease car, lease bike, and that for companies and employees, that works. Don't worry. But I thought you asked another question about the infrastructure, because you are in Amsterdam here. So we are now facing that the infrastructure we have in the city, but that was built for cars, but we have terrific infrastructure next to it that is built for bikes. But for the bikes, we knew.
Allemaal fiets.
All fiets. Now we have electric bikes, 25 kilometers per hour. We have speed pedelecs, 45 kilometers per hour. We have cargo bikes, 25 but a meter wide. So we have a big discussion in the Netherlands now about what belongs on the bike path. So the Fietsersbond, our bikers association, said the bike path should be there for the bikers with the non-electric bikes only. The rest is polluting the bike path. And we don't solve that. The only thing you can do is make the bike path wider. But making the bike path wider is also not a solution. So I really think that the 30 kilometers per hour city, especially Amsterdam or Utrecht or whatever, this is a solution. We have an infrastructure which is great. The amount of things we are not going to do by car is increasing. So make the bike path wider and the streets smaller for the cars. So if you make them too small, they don't fit. So I think the 30-kilometer city in which everybody chooses the part of the road that is most fit for them, that is the solution. And we will see that happening over the next 10 years, I think almost automatically, because there is no way of pushing the cars more and more out of the city, leaving the car part empty and filling the bicycle part up to a level that is becoming dangerous. So this will shift automatically.
Okay, so you say like change the speed difference, calm down the traffic, which is happening in cities across Europe, that's for sure.
People in the Netherlands who know the Netherlands go to Groningen, that's a university city. The bikers are in charge in Groningen. They just make sure that the car drivers that they cannot do what they don't want them to do. So they take over the streets there. I think this is something that's happening very gradually. So I think it's going in that direction.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, that's what we say in micromobility world. Like, if you want to see the future, go to the Netherlands, because in many aspects, that's what you live here. Yeah?
But we face the problems earlier than other ones. So we are getting in the situation that we also face when we make the transition so fast and so big that it has its own challenges again. So it's not the mecca here. It's we face the problems also the first time.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Can we go a little bit back to business? How important from a business perspective and from the pure business numbers, your performance outside of the traditional car business is within your groups? So you have a seat at the table right now already with all the non-car activities. That's clear. That's been clear. All of you presented that. But how long will you be able to keep the seat around the table without delivering performance? And then question mark what a performance is and how do you measure that? But still, can you bring us on the numbers? At least on the numbers that you can. I understand. I mean, this is not an investors meeting, but still, give us a touch of where you are, where you're heading.
You want me to start?
Of course, Raymond, go ahead.
Yeah, we have the luxury of being a bike producer as well. So earning money on the car side and everybody that's in the sector, this is the backbone and it still is the backbone. So all the experiments we do are financed from earning money on, for us, all the importership. We have the luxury that we have the bike production business, which is gradually in the companies going up to a level of performance that is getting equal to the car business. That's because of also the global size, of course. It's not the Netherlands only. So they are really earning good money in let's say, a mature market. And the mobility as a service is still something that is financed from the other two. In the Netherlands, with the Dutch tax system and the uptake we can make in services, is not yet a beneficial business model to make it work. We very much believe that in the end, especially the car side, will be less important and it will not go away in the next 10 years, but it will be less important. We have the luxury of the bike part coming up, but the moment that we can really say, if the services part would have to stand on its own legs today, it would be a very, very tough thing. And I think we will not get that done by increasing the size of what we do, because it's not only in the size, it's very, very much depending on your local legislation. Because the whole tax system, especially in the Netherlands, is made in a way that the car is the owned car is the cheapest way of transport. And if you go into multimodal transport, you have to be very careful how you create that for yourselves to maybe be on par with the car. And if you do a few things wrong, you end up more expensive than the car. And that's just 90% in the tax system. So as long as we don't get that fixed, for instance, with road pricing, which we have a discussion on in the Netherlands, it has become so difficult that we will not see it in the next 10 years maybe. But things like road pricing, an honest price for every mile with every modality, as long as we don't have that, I think the services will struggle to be beneficial. And we need the other segments for not a year, much more than a year, to make the whole thing balanced. So self-supporting, multimodal things, I don't see them happening in the next 5 years. There are a few, of course, that do it, but overall,
still not on the horizon.
We are not going to phone Volkswagen and say, we don't need you anymore.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
How about in Belgium and D'Ieteren?
Like you said, we have a place at the table and we'll keep the place at the table, that's for sure.
Well, actually, your colleague Carl, the CEO of Lustion, he's at the table right now because there's a strategy meeting now happening. He should have been here with us, but he's been asked to present an acceleration program to grow your bicycle retail project.
To double it, actually, which is good news.
Okay.
So we have the place at the table, we keep the place at the table, but you have to face sometimes also that if you have 10 startups in the business, that after a few years, you might have to kill one or two, because it's still red and it's not turning green, and it's not gonna turn green in the upcoming years. But like you said, sometimes you need just a few more years, and that's the comfortable place we're sitting at with a big financial structure behind. You can take the time to grow some businesses because you have the financial support behind you, which is not always the case when you're just starting up from your own, with your own business and with your own finance. So we're still believing that there is some huge growth potential for a lot of smart mobility businesses. That's definitely.
Good. How about in Switzerland at AMAG?
So we are in the nice position that we are not a front runner if you compare here. So you have a bike OEM, you have somebody who already started 2 years ago with bike retail. We will step into that. Hopefully, we will have a workshop on Monday with our CEO and COO to propose our strategy in terms of bikes. But whenever we do that, we have the attitude that we should play it big. We should have the importance, meaning we say we should have a market share in e-bikes of 10 to 15% over the next 5 years then, meaning selling 50, 60,000 e-bikes in Switzerland or handling that amount. And whatever we do or whatever we bring out of our Innovation and Venture Lab kitchen, if it gets to that stage where we really release it into the business units or set it up, it should bring a net contribution of 10 million per year. And so that's the ambition we are having. Good. For bikes, it will be more, for sure.
Good. Well, that gives you really some kind of growing importance within traditional family automotive focused business.
Yeah.
We're slowly but surely heading towards the final notes. If I may ask all three of you, where are we going to be from your perspective and from your activities from now in, let's say, 5 years? Where do you see the ventures you are in? Where do you see them in the future? I know there's a tricky thing about the future, and that's how to forecast it. But still, I got to ask that question. The
glass ball.
Okay. And maybe it doesn't have to be in terms of performance. What needs to change? Mindsets of the company, priorities. I mean, you mentioned already a few things, but if you were about to sum it up, what needs to change in the 5 years to not to get stuck in the position where you are today?
Yes.
Raymond.
Yeah, I showed you the glass.
Yeah. We all have, by the way, a glass like this.
Yeah, but you know, I flew in for a strategy meeting last night to be here. And the strategy meeting was about the glass ball. Raymond, what do you think is going to happen? And I've never been so insecure.
Okay, but the acceptance in the room...
The acceptance in the room is there. But it's now about, as I said, we think we have it in place. We know the business models that are there. We technically have it in place. I think the customers want it as well. There is no defense from people. There is the amount of people that see that multimodality is there to stay, and they are looking for a way to get in. The tricky thing is how to make it attractive for people, and the attractiveness, to a large extent, and we are Dutch, lies into in this tax system. So the insecurity now is how we work together with governments to make it work. We are actually, and it's part of my job in the Netherlands, we are working very closely together with the governments to find out together what we have to do. And we have to understand each other. And I've never been I'm doing this now for 15 years, but I've never been in a situation in which the local and also the national and even the European government has better understood that the transition we have to make together. And we have to understand. And the government doesn't understand the market, and we don't we try to understand the government. And if we don't do this together, so that we have the adequate triggers in the market, especially in the tax and regulation system, which can only be access to the city and environmental zones, whatever you want to call it. If we don't get that exactly right, it may take a long time. And therefore, I cannot predict. I'm not able to predict
time scale,
because I cannot predict how this collaboration in this very confusing world at this moment, with all the crises going on. If we wouldn't have all the crises going on, maybe it would be easier because we focus on this, but there's so much going on. So I just don't know. But give it another 5 years, and I think we'll have had a big step forward, but not next year. That's too soon.
Okay. Vincent?
I think that there is a need in big change of mentality of customers. We had the chance to present the Microlino last January on the Brussels Motor Show, and people love the design, people love the car, but 2 times a year I need a big car to go on holiday, so I can't buy this. And the change of mentality is more in, it's not or I need a car or a Microlino or a bike, but I need mobility, and then it's a and. I need and a car and a bike and a micro Lino, and maybe you're not going to own it anymore, but you can just use it when you need something and you need the right mobility solution. So that's the change we're heading to.
Good, good. Roland.
I think company inside, we have a quite good setup. People are open, have understood that they have to open up. What we have to see here is that in 5 years, Micromobility Amsterdam should be Mobility Amsterdam, to also break down the walls here in thinking. So we are not the bad guys, you are not the good guys. Everybody wants to serve and offer best available mobility models to our clients. So let's do that together. We have, let's say, we coming from one perspective, we have a complete infrastructure, we have everything at hand, which will not serve us perfectly on that journey.
Yeah.
But we are also open to cooperate. And in Switzerland, we also have a quite good situation that regulation is not yet there that strictly as you have it in the European Union. So we are more open to discuss with government. There is more understanding how to regulate things on an easy way. And that makes us really think positive about the future. And the future is in our hand. So we can shape it. Nobody knows what it is, but we can produce role models and show whether it works or not and how to go on.
Oh, good. Well, gentlemen, our time is running up. I just want to ask all the audience for a big round of applause for you.